Next up, we've got Paul Tracey. So Paul is Paul owns Progress Wealth Management. He's a business owner and been a financial planner for 25 years. He's been in financial services for over 30 years. He's a TOT member and he's been a member of MDRT for 22 years. He's chartered and certified financial planner. And he's married to Liz, who's also his business partner, and he has 2 children aged 18 and 11. Paul's passionate about making a difference to people's lives, living life to the full, and Aston Villa. So, Paul, over to you.
So you'll be glad to know I won't be singing Sweet Caroline, as I talked about earlier. But yeah, Jack Grealish, Aston Villa, and I was partially living life to the full last night, so I'll get my excuses out of the way. So early on today. But thank you, Carla, for giving me the opportunity to talk today. Myself and Carla have known each other for quite a few years now. And some of you I've known, as Carla just mentioned, for 22 years plus has been a member all that time. So yeah, giving me the opportunity to just talk about my journey. I mean, I put on the title 50 pence a week to £30,000 a month. The majority of this talk isn't about so much the money, but to give a bit of background, that was the first life insurance sale I ever had back 30 years, approximately 30 years ago with LV. And if anyone ever had that experience of working on what was the debit at the time, collecting money from people's houses, and firstly I'll say I don't look that old, I know. But yeah, 30 years ago, I was on the debit in a local council estate. Probably one of the first conversations I had to have with a client was dealing with a death claim. Met this young couple who just lost their child, and it was really, I suppose, it was a great lesson in life of the power of insurance and financial planning at the time. But a few weeks later, I was lucky enough to have my first sale, which was 50 pence a week, and I was delighted. Only 2 weeks ago, my personal largest sale ever was a combination of premiums monthly. It's the background is a business sale, and the chap and his wife have got a deferred payment coming to them of quite a few million, and yeah, it was £30,000 a month plus £1 million. Plus inheritance tax planning, 2 million there as well in terms of life insurance. So the biggest case ever. Now that didn't come just from success overnight. That was a 30-year journey where I'd worked with LV and Pearl for a short time. I'd become an IFA, spent 12 years as an IFA, stroke financial planner. Then joined SJP 12 years ago. One of the biggest lessons I ever had for myself was getting involved in the LIA, MDRT, Institute of Financial Planning, and the lesson was to invest in yourself, read, spend time with people who you hang about with, you become. Joined, I think, through the LIA at the time. I got to listen to and speak to a number of real stars in this profession, and that introduced me to MDRT, and I went to New Orleans back there in 1999, and at that made a huge difference to my life. And I remember the monthly magazine coming out, and I was in it with on the page with Bruce Everington, because somebody asked me what would you say about coming to the MDRT annual meeting, and I said, come to MDRT, it'll change your life. And it did. It certainly did for me. One of the biggest impacts I had there was listening to Bruce Everington, based out of Toronto, and I've got loads of books around me here, but if you ever got hold of these CDs, absolutely brilliant. Client building strategies, fantastic. Probably one of the best talks I ever heard. I remember him talking about financial architecture. And yeah, Bhupinder Anand was in that room at the time, and yeah, took a lot of value from there. I'll mention one of his strategies there shortly. And Bill Backrack, values-based selling. I can't remember if it was 1999 or 2000 in San Francisco when I heard him talk there as well. And that was another huge impact in my life, really, in terms of my career, in being able to really step back and ask clients about what is really important to them and what really matters most, because I think that's the real foundation. Bruce Emberton talks about creating the structure for people and foundation, and I think it's so important to really build that with the clients, understand where they're coming from, where they are now, and where they want to get to. Along the way, I met Paul Etheridge, LIA, Chris Barrow, who introduced me to another person, John Dashfield. Anyone's ever read John's book at all? It's the Client-Centered Financial Advisor. I have got a small chapter in there, but that is an absolutely outstanding book, and he's got an audio book as well, and I would recommend that highly, because it's how to really build high trust and high profit relationships with a practice. Now, this is all leading towards how we kind of work with this biggest sale ever. Yeah, joining study groups, and again through MDRT and people that I met Ian Green. I used to be with Ian Green on one or two study groups years ago. And I think just sharing ideas and sharing with people, myself and Carla, through being on Strategic Coach. If anyone hasn't done it, I'd highly recommend that. Get involved in Strategic Coach. But the time that we spend in the hotel the night before, absolutely invaluable. Just sharing ideas, having a few drinks, few headaches, a bit like the one I've got today. But absolutely brilliant. And then CFP, 2007, I decided to take up that challenge of becoming a certified financial planner. And again, my message there is to stand out from the crowd. There isn't many of us in the UK. It's an international qualification. I'm chartered as well. I've always believed get qualified, but yeah, CFP for me was the gel that brought it all together, because it was an understanding of applying knowledge, what we do for becoming chartered, and actually bringing the planning together. Through Paul Etheridge, getting to grips with truth, cash flow modeling. I think I couldn't provide financial advice now unless I was providing cash flow modeling. I would find it. It'd be like trying to trying to run in a wheelchair. It just couldn't happen. But it's like I have to get a real clear picture for clients, or give them a clear picture and clarity of kind of where they are and where they're heading, and go out into the future. There's a lady called Julie Lord who had a great saying there, which is, it's like cash flow modeling is like getting into the TARDIS and going out to the future, opening up the door, having a look around, and having a look at where you are. And if you don't like it, we can come back in time and do something about it. So for me, that's something I use with clients all the time to explain what cash flow modeling is. I have a crystal ball sitting on my desk, or on the meeting table just behind me here. It's not a very big crystal ball, and we quite often refer to that, but I say, look, what we can do here is we can look at this crystal ball, and we can look out into the future and see what your financial life looks like. Or we've got this fantastic bit of kit, based on what I know all about you, is that we're going to map out the future and see how it looks. Putting the client at the center of everything that we do and not their money, that was a massive transition for me. Going back to that 50 pence a week and the time I spent in the early days, it was about product. Yeah, but if we understand that money's just a means to an end, it's a facilitator, it's a piece of paper, it's something we trust in, but nowadays it's numbers on a screen. We hardly even touch the old money. But for me, it's getting that concept across to client, that it isn't about the money, because money doesn't necessarily make you happy. It helps, and I'm sure we'd have disagreements or agreements about this, it helps, but it's not necessarily about the money, because we've all met, I'm sure, in our careers, if you've been around as long as I have as well. I think there's one or two people on here who've been around longer than me in this business. We've met some really, really miserable, wealthy people. So if money was the end to it all, then why are they so miserable? So yeah, it's helping really through a 3D wealth approach to, for me, help people to get financial clarity, but overall more financial well-being, and more holistically well-being in total. Last time I was at MDRT, I listened to Munro, I don't know if Diffendorf, I think his name is, and he's three-dimensional wealth. So I've taken his idea there. If anyone's come across Paul Armisen, you know he talks about the three hats. But for me, I think three-dimensional wealth is really hits home for me. The first dimension, or the dimension that we were all probably historically used to, was the money, was the product. Yeah. So traditionally, as I say to clients, financial advice has always been about the product. It was when I started, and it was during my career. Whereas now, for me, I think the wider dimension is what clients really want. So when I'm talking to clients, or more importantly, mainly listening to clients, but my proposition is to them, and something I ask them is, what do you really want to do with the rest of your life? And how much is enough? And then secondly, having achieved all of that, what do you want to leave behind? What legacy do you want to leave intact for the future generations? Three-dimensional wealth, that book, I recommend people read it or look up some of that material. Absolutely excellent, because it really does talk about the legacy that we can create for people, which can be a terrible legacy for our families and next generations, or it can be a really excellent legacy. And some of that is more to do with talking to your loved ones before you leave this earth rather than afterwards. So looking at my clock here, I've got 8.5 minutes. So firstly, life and legacy vision is helping people to create a real vision for their life and legacy. And a lot of that is to do, I believe, in the state of mind of us as an advisor, and the clarity of mind that we've got when we're with a client. For many years, it was all about making sure we had illustrations ready and agendas and what we're going to talk to them about, the product and this and that, and we would get ourselves busy and our whole busy mind about it all. But I met a guy called John Dashfield along this journey, and John Dashfield, as I mentioned that book earlier, he taught me that to throw away the agenda, to have no agenda at all, and to turn up at a meeting full of wisdom, because we all have that wisdom. And if you've been around in this business for a while, you've got a lot of experience that you can bring to the table. Now, if I turn up full of busyness and a busy mind, the client's never going to get real leadership and real value from that meeting, in my opinion. And this is what I believe of what John taught me the most. So the agendas that I had got thrown away. It's about having a really high quality conversation with the client, real quality, where you're asking some absolutely fantastic questions, and they know, and clients can tell whether you're present or whether you have stuff on your mind. They can tell whether you're really in the room, or you're thinking of the next question to ask them, or you're thinking of you need to get to the product discussion, or you need to talk about X, Y, Z. I hardly talk about returns on investments, etc. nowadays, because it's really about them. They're the center of it, not the money. And John also taught me about the level 3 listening, and it's the real quality listening where you are really in the room. And again, I would recommend getting that book and you just go straight to that chapter and really focus on level 3 listening. I think it's another great takeaway I think for this is to we like to think we're good listeners, but are we really? I'm sure our partners at home might tell us we're not, but and I get told that. But my clients tell me I am a great listener. It's about their values. What really matters to them, and really getting to grips with that. So our whole discovery meeting and helping to create that is about their values. You know, understanding their story. Where do they come from? What's some of their behaviour around money has been driven by what they learned when they were young, and what they experienced from their parents, their grandparents. And I quite often, well, majority of the time, ask that question. Not always, because as I say, I have no agenda. It's whatever comes to me at the time, with the questions that will inevitably come to me if I'm more present. Return on life. If anyone's come across Mitch Anthony, I just think some of his material and his book, I subscribe to Return on Life. We use that. It's an online platform, absolutely excellent for having great conversations with clients, measuring their return on their life rather than their return on their money, using the money as a facilitator, and it's got some great material that you can use there, and I'd highly recommend that. And he's written a brilliant book on retirement as well, called The New Retirementality. And I suppose because of my age and my clients have grown up with me, we talk to clients about financial independence, not retirement. And it's a question of what do you want to do with the rest of your life? And when people, from my experience, people don't want to retire, particularly if they run businesses. I find that they want to retire from something to something, and it's helping them, because when you ask people, what are you going to do with the rest of your life in retirement? You've got all your money sorted. We've got everything in a line for you. What are you going to do now? The first time you ask them that, I find that they're scratching their head going, not quite sure on that one. So I think there's some great tools in there. There's some great tools on Return on Life to actually have excellent conversations with your clients about retirement. And it's not retirement. That is an outdated concept, designed a long time ago for people that didn't really last too long in retirement, and possibly because they had no purpose. What do clients really want? They want peace of mind. In my view, that's what they want. It's just, Carl has heard this before, but I've never had a client walk into the room or had any meeting where someone's bound in and say, sell me a pension. I really need life insurance. I really need an investment. They just don't do it. But what they want to know is if they're okay. Yeah, will I be okay? Will I be able to educate my kids? Will I be able to retire if I want to? That's what people want. Our service is about transformation. It's when a client comes to us, it's about, are they unclear? And by the time they leave the meeting room, they're clear. They have some clarity. They come to us uncertain, and they leave certain. Yeah, they're worried, but then they leave with peace of mind. Legacy planning. Yeah, it's about, there's three parts of legacy, in my view, and also commented in the book, The Three-Dimensional Wealth. It's money in the first instance. So what legacy of money do you leave behind? Hopefully people have put their affairs in order, but what they've done is if they have got round to making a will, how often do we still find clients, particularly new clients who are successful in business? I was talking to one last week. He's just sold a business for 6 million. He might be selling it for 5 million, 50 million. He's got another business that he might be selling for. So on the telephone call, he said, yeah, I've got accountants, I've got tax advisors. Yeah, I'm quite happy with them. What can you do for me? You know, and obviously I can talk about what I've just discussed, but it was only when I mentioned the legacy side of things and whether or not he's created any generational planning for his children. He goes, do you know what? I haven't made a will. And can you believe that someone that's just sold a business for 6 million and he's got another one worth 50 million and he hasn't even made a will? So that triggered straight away, yeah, I need to see you. Yeah. So, but money, making sure that the money is, that you've created a real lasting legacy for clients by putting your affairs in order, but also talking to your clients about the money, what values you bring to the table in terms of that, in terms of your personal legacy. What personal legacy are you leaving behind? And then that book talks about the social legacy. So what do you do in your lifetime about a social legacy that you want to leave intact for your community, for charity, etc. So it's helping people to get their ducks in a row around all three parts of legacy: money, personal, and social. The second hat, realised I haven't got long left here, is financial planning. I think everybody understands what that is, but it's structure first, furniture second. I said Bruce Everington, 1999. He stood in the room in the hotel, giving his presentation, and he said, traditionally, financial services, what's happened is people have organised all the furniture, the products first, the pensions, the ISAs, the unit trust, everything else. Yeah. But he says, if you were going to build a house, if you had a piece of land, you're going to build a house, what would you do first? The first thing you would do is you would find an architect, yeah, and you would share with the architect what the vision is. Oh, that's me. You would share the vision. I'm going to turn it off now. Sorry. Yeah. You would share the vision with that architect, who would then go away and create some architecture around the property that you wish to build. Then, having done that, he would put together a blueprint and some architecture around how you're going to build, how you're going to take that vision and create the house of your dreams. And only then would you go out and buy the furniture. But if you were to get that the wrong way around, you go and buy the bricks and the furniture and everything else and find that it doesn't fit. Well, traditionally, his concept was that that's how financial services has been done. We bought all the stuff, but then find that the furniture doesn't fit. So again, as I say, I recommend listening to Bruce Everington, because I think he explains that far better than I do. Normally much better when I'm in a meeting. I think the financial planning gives clarity. It helps people with what-if scenarios. If we've really understood them in the first place, we're able to bring that to the table, and it brings it all to life and brings it all together. So I find people get massive value from those meetings. Carla, am I out of time?
Couple more minutes if you need them, Paul.
Couple more minutes, yeah. So yeah, in terms of business, part of that success journey for me has really been that we've, as I mentioned, strategic coach earlier. I joined Coach about 7 years ago. I wish I'd have joined it sooner. I first come across Coach and bought some of the tapes and CDs back in 1999 when I first attended. And yeah, building a great team around you. You'll have heard all this before, but and specialization. I think specialization for me, I talked about architecture there. Well, I specialize in working with business owners, but in particular, people who are in the construction industry. There might be electrical contractors, mechanical engineers, there are structural engineers, there are architects, there are surveyors. And I think being known for somebody who works in those sectors has put me in a great place. And we also have specialists in the firm. We have IHT specialists, protection specialists, who's one of the younger advisors, mortgage specialist, myself, more relevant in the pensions area. So that's the third dimension, really, is the product advice. Yeah. Don't need to talk too much about that, but it's what you can have the best and most wonderful financial plans in the world, but without action and implementation, they're not so useful. So we in the firm, we have specialists that we work as a team rather than as individual advisors, and that's what led us to £30,000 a month.